unfortunately, when you start doing well, you don't really want to stop. You want more. I always want more. I always want the best.
You started this agency when you were 17 years old?
So I went to drama school, was doing different bits and bobs, TV stuff, commercials, and then just fell out of love with it, really. It's very bit industry. I never intended to start a business. I don't know if that was a really good thing or a really bad thing, but I've literally done everything. On average, our conversion rate is anything from 40 to 60%.
40% conversion rate on proposal was actually exceptionally high.
Search any term about London for web development or SEO, we are one of the top 3.
Would you define yourself as full stack?
I think the whole niche thing is a little bit...
What's your opinion on centralised project management in general?
I think everyone should treat their SEO as a tax bill, like everybody should be doing it, because...
You also worked with big companies like Amazon or the European Commission. How did those kind of opportunities come up?
So Amazon, they wanted...
Tom, welcome to Agency Giants.
Thank you.
You outwardly express your love for nerd culture. You even call your team at Nautilus the Naughty Nerds.
Yeah.
I'm keen to understand from your perspective what being a nerd means to you.
Okay, what is being a nerd? Something that's different, right? Because there's so many agencies and I find everyone is the same, a bit like we were talking about earlier. So I used to freelance for like corporate agencies a few years ago before I started Nautilus, and everyone was the same. And I'm quite a bit of a cheeky guy, wear glasses, all that kind of stuff, love what I do. So then I sort of was like, okay, we'll call ourselves nerds. And we do work with some corporate clients, but it just makes things fun. Because if you're working with clients, it's nice to have a bit of fun rather than just be serious all the time.
Do you think that's attracted a certain type of client within the business?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we've got erectile dysfunction clinic clients that we work with. We've got lawyers that we work with, OnlyFans. So it's nice to work with different types of clients, and you can have a bit of banter and stuff like that.
That's a very diverse mix, and that's something I wanted to dive into with you, is you working with such a wide variety of clients and how that then looks as far as the business is concerned. Because in a way, you're kind of going against the grain of what so many people advise to do. And so
I know.
keen to unpack that. But you started this agency when you were 17 years old?
Yeah, probably.
Just coming out of acting. What was the catalyst that triggered you to start an agency so young?
Never intended to. Mm-hmm. So I went to drama school, had an agent, was doing different bits and bobs, TV stuff, commercials, theatre, and then just fell out of love with it, really. It's very bitchy industry, and it just really affected my mental health over time. Because I like to use the analogy, it's a bit like going to 3 job interviews a week. You constantly don't get feedback unless you get the job or unless you get a recall. And it just started to play on me. And I had a couple of clients I was doing some social media stuff for, just basically content creation, charging like £200 a month to do 3 posts a week on Instagram. And then I was working at a theatre, like doing 0 hours, showing people to the seats, and I had a really awful boss. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. So called my agent and said, don't want to do this. And he understood, and then fobbed off the theatre job. And then, yeah, just started to work with those clients, see if they wanted anything else. And then if they did want other services, bring on freelancers to offer the service, white label it. Then when we got enough clients, then hire someone to do it.
So you were working with clients from within the acting industry?
No, I was using like people per hour just to get random social media clients or people that wanted like email marketing, design, and then just, yeah, got clients that way.
So the early stage client acquisition strategy was platform-based, so kind of like what people would now see as like Upwork, I suppose?
Yeah. I don't know if people per hour still exists, but it was such a good platform because I think when I started, it wasn't the SMMA space, like wasn't huge. So it was really easy to get clients. And then from that, mainly just referrals really, and then started to work with freelancers that would then recommend clients in that they couldn't deal with themselves. So I'd win the work and then just pass it off. So it worked quite nicely.
Nice. And then how long did it take you to go from being a freelancer to, I mean, you now have a team of around 25 people in the business and all over, as we were just discussing, as a virtual company, which is, again, something I'd like to discuss. How long did it take for you to start gaining initial traction? Because coming from acting very early on, starting a business, there's quite a leap, and there's a lot of, at least thinking back to my journey, a lot of learnings in the early stages. So did it take a long time to gain traction and jump out of freelancer mode?
I had no idea what I was doing. I was saying yes to everything because it was a really weird concept, because I'd been brought up of, go to university, go to drama school, get an agent, do this, do that. So to have like clients that were paying you a monthly fee to do loads of different stuff, I was like, oh, this is really cool. But I'd say from freelancing to like proper agency stuff, it was probably just before COVID when things got serious. I think that's when I've hired like full time, my first proper hire. That was a social media manager to take over the clients that I was managing. And then, yeah, COVID was a massive growth spurt. That's when my partner Jake joined the business. And then that was so nice because I had someone that I wasn't in it on my own. So if there was a problem, instead of it landing on me to like deal with it, I'd be like, okay, Jake, what do we do? Help me. And then, yeah, I'd say COVID was like a massive, massive, massive growth spurt.
Do you focus most of your time, or have you focused most of your time on the sales side, or is it more service delivery you're interested?
Yes. So we had an operations manager join us a year and a half ago, called Emma. She's changed my life and my stress levels. So she now deals with all the operations side of the business. And then myself and Jake work on like the strategy, sales. And then we have 2 business developers as well.
And Jake is your business partner? Fine, because I know you obviously have another partner in life.
No, we're together.
You are together, fine.
Business and
Amazing.
a couple.
Did that happen before getting involved in business together or after?
Before. We were together 6 months and he asked for a pay rise at his job. He worked in IT at a law firm, and he asked for a pay rise. He said he was too clever. And I think I was doing like maybe 10K a month at that point. And I said, Jake, do you want to leave your job? We were on a holiday and he was really upset about it. And I said, do you want to leave your job and just come work with me? He was like, okay. So then just before COVID, he handed his notice in. And then when the whole lockdown happened, we were with each other. So I was just being like, okay, this is what we do. He brought out like a whole LinkedIn outreach strategy that we were using. And then, yeah, so he had no idea about marketing either.
Interesting. And was it a difficult transition going from like jumping into business together? Because it's a difficult landscape to pave, at least from the outside.
A little bit. I mean, we were together 6 months. So it was a big like, I'll give you however much percent of the business. And I was like, if this doesn't work, I'm really screwed. But we have such a good like banter, and he's very good at what he does and I'm very good at what I do. So we do clash sometimes, but it's a good relationship, I'd say, from a business point of view. I mean, we could kill each other sometimes, but we live together, work together. So, but it's good fun.
Do you think that gives you an unfair advantage?
In what sense?
Being together all the time, being able to think about business, or do you have to create limitations on?
Yeah. I had a conversation with a therapist actually a couple of years ago about the same thing, because we would just talk about work all the time. We'd never talk about the dog or like what we wanted to do and things like that. If we go on holiday, we'd switch off for a couple of days and then we'd like creep the laptops out and be like, can we do this? Can we do this? So yeah, we have a bit more of a boundary now. We didn't used to live together until like 3 years ago. So now we do. It's a little bit more full on, but we just ensure that we have breaks where we stop working. Weekends is our time, and have a bit of separation, because otherwise it just gets really full on.
Yeah, 100%. You just end up getting bunkered in and just working 24/7. You take weekends out of the business.
Well, yeah, kind of. I will check my emails and do bits.
Fine. It's something I'm quite an advocate of. Is just I will work weekends when we're on strict deadlines and when we have to, but I think it's so important to take them. And
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, 100%. So you mentioned that you started off by kind of saying yes to everything. To an extent, I'm sure that has been reined in over time, but you still work with, like, as you mentioned, a huge variety of different kinds of businesses, offering a large variety. Would you define yourself as full stack?
Yeah, I've gone against all the gurus and what they say about niching down. And I don't know why, actually. I think because when I started, it was just social media. But then when clients offered and wanted other services, I was like, well, if I get a freelancer to do the work, charge 30-40% on top, project manage it, the client's really happy, and then they would get more clients and we get more clients of that particular service and then hire someone. We've got multi-service, multi-different types of clients, which sometimes from a service delivery point of view can be a little bit hard, especially with like different SOPs for different services and things like that. But the way that we've structured the team, in a way, there isn't that much crossover now. Obviously different industries a little bit, but like I said, we work with a lot of lawyers, we work with a lot of aesthetic clients. So we do have niches within niches, but we don't only work with chiropractors. We don't only work with like lawyers, for example.
How does that affect things like profit margins and so on as well?
Everything is quite linear because we have like a design team, a development team, and then marketing is split between organic and paid. It's quite easy to loop in different services and different sort of retainers for different things. So some clients come to us just for SEO, some clients come to us for SEO and PPC, and then we just work out pricing from that, and then all the teams allocated and tracked and things. So.
And are the team multifaceted? Are they working on multiple different services individually? Or?
No. So we've got an SEO team that only do SEO, PPC, socials, copywriting, development.
Fine. So you don't have to deal with the split of attention. That's interesting. It goes against what many people believe to be the best way to do it. But if it works, ultimately, agencies spend most of their days saying no to deals because they're trying to keep themselves in a box.
Absolutely. And it works quite nicely in that aspect because we partner with loads of agencies that are literally just exactly as you said. If they get a lead for legal services that want lead generation, but they only work with chiropractors, a lot of the time they'll refer over to us, and then we'll just pay like either a recurring or like a one-time commission. And it works quite well. And don't get me wrong, it's not been the most easiest thing. There has been problems along the way, but I don't know why. I think for me, the whole niche thing is a little bit, if I had a dentist and the marketing agency that I was working with is only working with dentists, I'd be a bit like, well, what are they saying about me to my competitors and things like that? And I guess that's a little bit closed-minded because that's how I used to be, right? I never used to go to conferences, never used to network with other agency owners. I kept myself to myself, never talked about money to anyone else. And then when I started to, those partnerships and things have come across as well. So definitely not the easiest and the most wisest decision, but I think because I didn't plan on doing it, it probably made it a little bit easier. Because if I was to do it now, I definitely wouldn't do multi-service, multi-niche. I think I'd probably have a breakdown.
Because you've gradually increased stress over a long period of time.
Absolutely, yeah, probably.
Yeah, so you can handle it. If someone wanted to do that, are we saying you wouldn't advise someone to do what you've done in this situation? And
I wouldn't. If I was doing it again, which I wouldn't do multi-service if I intended to start an agency. I think because I went into social media, had a bit of a play, got sort of learned as I went, and found it a bit fun. And then when I started partnering with other like freelancers and stuff, that was a very, I think, easy way to do it. And I would just be basically doing all the project management. But I definitely wouldn't do it now because it's just so much stress and it's so saturated.
Yeah, well, it's clearly worked well because you've won many awards in the agency as well, which is amazing. But if someone did want to, or actually scrap that, if you were then starting from scratch and you weren't necessarily going full service, is there a hybrid or is there a certain model that you do think is the best? Like, how would you start that again if you were coming into it with a fresh mind?
I think a mixture of service and like service as a software as well. So like I mentioned earlier, we've got a lot of leads that we get for like really small businesses that just don't have the budget to work. I created a whole like YouTube and podcast around that to give back to those people that, you know, want to quick fixes on SEO and things like that. So I think if I was to do it again, it would be a mixture of service delivery, but then also like a SaaS or a subscription model on like marketing and how a small business owner can do it themselves. Because a lot of small businesses, they come in and they say, all right, I want to do this. And we say, right, okay, well, we need to do this first. It's going to cost this much. Or I don't know if we can do that. But they know that they need to do it, but they can't do it themselves. So I think providing something to aid small business owners, because there's so much that they could do themselves, that is quite easy work for an agency to do. And they would pay a premium for doing it. So I'd probably go down that model if I was to do that, or maybe something I might do in future.
Yeah, you're creating the serviceable market.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you find balancing creating? I've seen you've got a podcast, you're posting on LinkedIn, you're on YouTube, you're everywhere. How are you balancing that alongside running the business? Speaking from experience, that's a very hard thing to do. And I think you're putting out more content than I am. So how are you balancing that at the moment? How has your role allowed you for that to happen?
Our operations manager, literally, I never knew I needed an operations manager. Me and Jake would manage the team. We'd be managing the sales stuff. We'd be working with our accountants and everything to do all that stuff. So I was literally spinning so many plates. And then my friend Charlie come for dinner one night, we were talking, and he said, I think you need an operations manager. And I was like, no, I don't need one of them. And he was listing out what his operations manager does. And I was like, oh, okay. they can really do that. And he was like, yes, Tom. And one of his friends was looking for a job, and she'd done operations before, and she's literally changed my life. Like, my stress levels have come so much more like down now. And then I've been able to focus on doing different bits of content. Like 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to come out of my day and come to speak to you today. Like, I'd be like, oh, can we do it in the evening or the weekends? And it's a Friday, like in the middle of the day, because I'd be so bogged down doing this, doing that. So operations managers literally allowed me to do that. Yeah.
So for someone else watching this thinking, "Oh, I feel like I need that kind of person," what are we talking about? Like, what was that? Oh my goodness, these people can do this for my business. What does that look like?
So managing the team, we have 20, well, excluding Jake and I, like 23 people in different parts of the world, in different services, doing different things for clients. Some are account managers, some are sales, some are directly working on the client campaigns. So to have someone that's managing the, I hate to say it, the team culture stuff. We planned a whole trip to bring everyone to the UK last summer. We stayed in an Airbnb. We went to Brighton. South Africans can drink. And we had a great time, and we did some brainstorming and stuff. So she's been able to sort of take care of that side of the business. But then also, if everyone gets them, if a client isn't happy or something's not going the right way, before I'd be like, ooh, what do I do? Whereas Emma comes in from a very clear head. Okay, this is probably where the client's coming in. This is what we're going to do. This is this. So just to alleviate that pressure, I couldn't go on holiday before. I'd take my laptop with me. I'd be literally sat by the pool on my laptop working with the team. I'd have a couple of hours off, but it wouldn't be like anything major. Whereas last year we went on holiday and it was so nice, but then I got food poisoning, so I couldn't really enjoy the holiday. But now we've been able to do that a lot more and not worry. And if anything does crop up, that probably isn't urgent, but in my mind it's urgent. Then it just gets taken care of.
Presumably, at least from my experience, but in yours, was it difficult to, when you initially hired that operations manager, to transition to them being able to take on most of the stuff inside of the business, a lot of SOPs?
I couldn't let go. And I remember really vividly, me and Jake were on our way to Epsom to go and see a friend, and he was like, so what's Emma going to do for us? I was like, I don't know, like maybe manage the team. And then when we got to our friends, she was saying that their operations manager of their skin clinic, that's where she works, does this. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. And Jake was like, I told you so. But I like to be hands-on. I don't want to be seen as a lazy boss or anything like that. But it was really hard to give up that, because it's been me and Jake for so long, managing the team, managing the clients, literally doing everything. To be like, I'm going to basically give you a section of the business to run, was like, oh, I hope this doesn't go badly. But she smashed it and she's amazing. So it's worked in my favour.
How did you convince yourself to start allowing her to take over?
It was Jake.
Right.
It wasn't me. And that's the reason why I think we work so well together, because he like pushes me. So if I'm like, oh, okay, I don't think we should do this. No, Tom, we need to do this. Like, let's just crack on. Let's just do it. And it works quite well. And I was very like apprehensive at first. And he was like, well, if it doesn't work, then you just take it back. And it worked really well.
Good. Amen to that. It's one of those roles that you don't realise you need until you really do need it, because you're so stressed inside the company.
Absolutely.
And then when you get it, you're like, why didn't I do this earlier?
I said to Jay, why didn't we do this like 2 years ago? I think probably doing it before we grew so quickly would have been a little bit easier, just for like SOPs and hiring and things like that. Like, if anytime we do hire, Emma takes the first interview, make sure like a good fit, and then me and Jake jump in and then sort of do the second and the other round. So it's nice to have someone that can take a little bit of the pressure off, 100%.
Yeah. Talking of hiring, hiring is a process in itself. It's
Absolutely.
An incredibly stressful process. Going and hiring 25 people in the company. What is your hiring process? How have you found the best talent? Being virtual as well, you're tapping into international. I know you've got a team in South Africa and the UK and so on. What is your hiring process at the moment?
It depends on what we need. So we work with a couple of recruiters, but they're not your typical recruiters. We started to hire in South Africa probably 2 years ago, maybe just a little bit longer than that. One of the best decisions we made, because we found so many issues with hiring in the UK, just like work ethic, one of the team members that we had before logged on at 2:00 in the afternoon, and Jake was like, "I saw you logged on at 2:00. Oh no, I was on my phone doing this, and we were like, oh no." And it's just so much of a faff, and obviously the cost of salaries as well. But we use a couple of recruiters, and that's mainly who we use, to be fair. So we give a spec of what we want, years of experience, rough salary, perks, and things like that. And then they send us some candidates and we interview them. It's not a formal interview process at all. Like, we don't have questions or anything. We literally just have a chat, and an informal chat, and sort of, as cringy as it sounds, get their vibe. And we've got it wrong in the past, like, don't get me wrong, but majority of the people, we've got a really good, like, close-knit team, which is good.
Nice. Yeah, South Africa has such a good hiring pool. The problem, at least that we find, though, in the agency, we're a similar team size in our agency, it's not the problem now, but it was the problem initially as we were growing, was maintaining that culture across the company and making sure everyone did stay motivated and was working on the right things and wasn't spending their time in certain areas, because it's so easy when you're sat at home. I mean, we do it as owners of the business.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you have a day goes by and you've been working all day, but you've been working in the wrong areas and you haven't been working on the right things. What is your frame for maybe meeting rhythm and so on? How are you controlling or ensuring that everybody is doing the right things in the company?
I think a lot of it is trust. I know it sounds cringy, but you can kind of get a vibe if someone's not doing what they should be doing. And because I've done a lot of the stuff in the agency, I know roughly how long should take, or I've got a good gut feeling about things. And as I said, we have got it wrong before, where we hired the wrong people, but everyone makes mistakes. I've made so many mistakes along the way. But having just a good trust, and if the team want to log off a little bit earlier and go and have lunch with their grandma or whatever, and then just log on a little bit earlier the next day, that's absolutely fine. Like, it's not, you have to start at 9 and finish at 5. If there are things that you need to do, like, as long as you get your work done, I don't really care. And that works quite well from a trusting them and us trusting as well. It's a nice little mixture of both, really.
Time trackers at all?
Nope.
No, fine.
I know people that do, but I think it's a bit invasive, really. And, like, there's ones, isn't there, where you, like, screenshots the work that you do and things like that. And I think, that's a little bit.
Yeah, it can get interesting. I would agree with that by and large. I think that they have a place in probation periods, though. I think there's certain roles in probation period, especially new roles, when you're actually trying to establish what the output could be.
Yeah. And, like, from a sales perspective as well, that's also, like, really hard to track. Yes, you can track in HubSpot and CRMs and things like that, and obviously it comes down to numbers coming in. But if, like, one of our sales guys has got so many deals in the pipeline literally ready to go, if a week goes by and nothing's gone on, I'm like, oh God, like, what are we doing? Like, literally on the edge. But then they'll come through. So it's having that trust and that someone knows what they're doing. Like, I don't hire people. I hire people because they're smarter than me, right? It's not because I need extra help. I want them to bring things to the table. And I think that's also a big thing, because if someone joins the company and they're very, very placid, like, they'll just get on with their thing, I think that's okay. But what really stands out is people that come in and be like, okay, I think we should do this, and things like that. Like, with our ads, for example, we've been spending a decent amount on Google Ads for the past, 4 years. And only until recently, we've really dived into the strategy, because one of the guys that joined was like, I think we should do this and this and this. And then it's worked out massively well, because we've got more conversions coming in and things like that. So putting trust and hiring people that are really good at what they do, I mean, it makes my life easier.
Yeah, 100%. You chose to be virtual and you didn't want to have a physical office.
No.
Do you stand by that decision? You're glad you are a virtual company?
I think it has its pros and it has its cons. I mean, I had an office when I first started. It was literally me. And the only reason I did that is because I lived with my parents and my sister had a baby and my mom and dad were looking after the baby. And I was like, I can't deal with this noise. So I rented an office, and it was nice because I could go work and then come back. But when I started to hire people, I mean, the first hire was in Eastbourne. So, like, I used to live in Birmingham, so absolutely nowhere close. And I think as long as you make a decent enough like commitment to meet up for events, like we flew in all the team, for example, last year, I think you can have that. I mean, we talk every day anyway on Slack and things. So I think as long as you have that culture in a way, like we do fun things and things like that, I think works well. But there are perks of having an office because you can do cool things together. And I think it might help with like brainstorming a little bit better, getting a vibe off people, especially. Like it's very hard to get a vibe off someone via a Zoom interview and things. But then there's pros and cons to everything, isn't there? I guess
there are. We're virtual as well, and but I spend half the year in Cape Town where we have lots of team members, and we got all of our South African team together for a hike up Lion's Head, which is a mountain.
Oh, nice.
Only a couple of months ago. Yeah, it would have been a couple of months ago now in February. And when you meet team in person, and it always reminds me how much of a deeper relationship you build with people.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only part I not regret, but miss about having a virtual, not having a physical company, because everyone is virtual. And it's when you meet them, you're like, oh, you really do foster those connections. And it's like, if we were together every single day, would we be even more of a tighter bond? Or would we go so far the other side that everyone starts hating each other, which also happens a lot?
Absolutely. I think it's quite nice though. And I always find it when we do meet up, like, oh, I hire all these people. Like it's a little bit overwhelming because you talk to people all the time on Slack or whatever, or Teams. And then when you actually see each other, it's like, oh, okay, there's how many people here? I will hire them. Like it's a bit surreal, really.
Mm. Do you think in the future you'll want to have that experience, or do you think you'll always stay a virtual entrepreneur? A virtual entrepreneur. There's no other way to put it.
No, absolutely. I like my own space. Jake says I have like ADHD because when we go into offices and stuff, I'm like, I can't sit still. So it's nice to have that like me space that I can just crack on and do what I want. But also I do work late sometimes. And to do that from home rather than being in an office in like London, for example, would just be hell. So I like my house. I like my home office. But like you said, it is nice because when you do meet up, you have a great relationship. And when we did meet up, we had like a huge brainstorming session and things come out, okay, maybe we should do this better or this reporting process better. And I was like, oh, actually, that's really good. But we probably wouldn't have come up with that if we were just talking on our Friday meetings where we just talk about gossip and what's going on in the world rather than like actual meaning stuff.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. So client acquisition, you're outbounding at the moment, inbound, what does the strategy look like?
Mostly a mixture, really. We have a lot of relationships with like agencies. So SEO agencies that don't offer ads will refer stuff over to us. Design agencies that don't do SEO or PPC will like send over leads to us. We work with a couple of different like partner programs like Wix. They give us leads for like websites and things like that. But the majority of stuff that we do is LinkedIn. So LinkedIn outreach. Also, I get a lot of stuff come in via my profile, which then I dish out to the team. SEO, and then probably a decent amount coming through from ads as well. I always like to not put all my eggs in one basket because it makes me nervous. So yeah, as much as possible, really.
Do you find that deal flow usually comes into one service first, like a website, and then distributes across other services?
Yeah, sometimes. For like startups that are like pre-funded and things, majority of stuff either starts with like a branding project or a website. And then from that, it could go onto like web maintenance or it could go onto SEO and ads. Some do come to us just for marketing. But I would say a lot do web branding, and then once they finish their project, we have a catch-up call and say, okay, what do you want to do now, and things like that. Or others come to us with already pre-existing marketing teams and say, we're doing this right now, it's not really working. Can you work with us on like a consulting project or something? And that's when we sort of dive into that.
Have you systemized the upsell process, so increasing the LTV over time?
Every team member that upsells gets 10% commission. So whether in sales or account management, and that's been a really good incentive. The business can afford it, and it's a nice little extra perk that we give to everyone, even if they're on probation, even if they're 2 months into the business, everybody gets that. And if you sell a website for a decent amount of money or you sell a retainer, that's a nice little increase. That's been I'd probably say the biggest. Because all the team is quite close. Like our sales team always have calls each week with all the account managers for like different particular services for them to upskill a little bit, but then also to sort of feed back to the account managers. So that's been really good because they can get the knowledge and be like, oh, okay, the web project manager has built this website. They might want SEO. Here's what I need to do to say this. So that's been like, I'd say the main reason really, because it's been really effective.
Yeah, that's nice. And then presumably churn stays really low because you're keeping clients for a long time.
Yeah, and we don't lock clients into, it's another thing I go against the norm. We don't lock clients into like contracts for like 12 or 24 months.
Nice.
The only one we do is SEO, which is our smallest package, which is mainly for small businesses where we do 6-month commitment, or you can pay for 6 months up front. Because I think when I used to like freelance for agencies, what would happen is, and what I noticed happening is you would onboard a client and they'd get X amount of hours allocated to them. And then over the amount of months, we'd be told, okay, to drop an hour. And then the client's not actually paying what they're getting, and then they can't leave the contract. I just thought it was a bit underhand and not very ethical. So we just do 30 days notice from your billing date. And we work hard so the client stays with us. So there shouldn't really be a reason for the client to leave. We do have clients leave. Things happen, whether they've merged with another business. We had one where we were doing amazingly well on lead generation for private doctors in Surrey. They were doing like earwax removal, private GP appointments, and we were flooding them with leads. They had to hire more people. But then they got acquired by another company, and then that company had their own marketing team in-house. But then they left the acquisition like a year later, and then they come back and was like, please, can you help us again? And now we're working with them again. So it's quite nice in that respect.
I can see that. They're always going to be on top of mind when they need something else inside.
Yeah, absolutely, because there's never really any contractual issues that we have with clients. It's more, okay, the project's finished, the budget's finished, or we just get a lead that isn't a good fit for us and it's just not a good relationship, which does happen. There's never really, okay, like you breached the terms or anything like that, because it's just very clear cut. 30 days from your billing date, either way, if you want to leave us, rather than you have to stay with us for 6 months.
Fine. And at that point on the 30 days, are you having a strategic conversation to say, right?
Always. Yeah, so we built out, when Emma joined, like a whole SOP around it. So if a client does want to leave, they'll have a call with their account manager and our operations manager, if there's anything we can do or what the actual problem is, if it's budgets or if it's anything like that. And then we just come up with a strategy on how to sort of best proceed with that. So yeah, that's also been a great perk from that perspective too.
Do you think there's a service for offering like all services? Do you think there's like an under-leveraged service that you guys offer that most people don't explore? Because you mentioned SEO quite a lot, and I know SEO is something that you speak about on your podcast as well. Presumably because it's great for people with businesses that are starting out, because it just gets them off the ground.
Yeah.
Would you say there is one?
I'd say SEO, I use the analogy to every client I speak to. Unfortunately, as every tax bill that we get is terrible, I think everyone should treat their SEO as a tax bill. Like everybody should be doing it, because there's so much potential, and it does cost a little bit and it takes a lot of time, but the return on investment is just ridiculously high. Like we started working on our SEO 4 years ago. If you search any term about London for web development or SEO, we are one of the top 3. And we've put a lot of effort in that. But I'd say everyone needs to do SEO if you can afford it, because there's just so much potential you can tap into, no matter if it's e-commerce, no matter if it's service-based. Because with ads, it's very linear. You have to keep spending. Whereas a lot of our clients do is they do SEO and PPC together. We subsidize the leads coming in from Google with SEO. So we're building up their SEO, running Google ads at the same time, or different display ads, etc., getting the leads from Google, bring up their SEO, and then over time you can wean off your Google ads budget, or you can keep them both and you've got, not double, but near double the amount of leads.
Nice.
And it works quite well. I'd say that one, but also we offer a service called Digital PR, which is where we would take a business owner or a CEO and we would respond to journalist requests on their behalf. So, for example, a journalist might be looking for someone to talk about SEO in 2025. My team would put together a pitch as of me to answer the journalist questions. We'll send it off. And we've got like huge coverage, like Forbes. We had a whole feature on Shopify, HubSpot for our agency. So what I always do is I test services on our own brand first. And then if we get really good results, that's when I start rolling it out to clients. But that's been really effective because there are a lot of other agencies that do it that charge a ridiculous amount of money for it. And what we've done is it does take time to do. It's more of a numbers game. The more pictures you send, the more coverage you'll get. So we are relatively affordable, but it means that it's great for SEO, But then it's also great for like social proof. Like you can say you've been mentioned in Forbes. You can say you've been like on like building out a press page. And it's not ridiculously expensive. Like it's £1,000 or £950 for the smallest campaign. It's a one-time cost that probably lasts like 3 months. But it's really effective. So yeah, probably SEO and digital PR, I'd say.
Nice. So without revealing all of your cards, what is a baseline SEO strategy that people should be following for themselves? Because I think people hear that term and they put it in a box of old age internet and just writing endless blog posts.
Yeah.
So what does that look like?
I think a lot of people can get started very easily. And I've recorded like so many videos on these are the things that every business should do for SEO. The main thing is what ChatGPT has like killed is people just using ChatGPT to write website copy, which is great. But having a lot of people write content for Google rather than writing it for people. And there are people out there that have ranked website on literally lorem ipsum and then just put keywords in, which proves a concept. But if someone's going on, then you need to look at conversion rates and things like that. So I think having a good website that is functional but looks good, your website is your digital front door to the business, right? It has to look good. It has to clearly communicate what you do. And then having good content, having it load really quickly, and not forgetting the technical stuff. So your method descriptions, adding in keywords, what a lot of people used to do, which is like old age SEO, like stuff keywords everywhere, which it doesn't work. But yeah, having a good website with good content that's written for people rather than like Google. But nobody really knows. Everyone talks about SEO, but no one knows actually what SEO is because it's a very based on Google's algorithm. You have to test, which is what we do a lot for clients. So we'll test on our own website, like what we do with services. If something works really well, like the digital PR, we tested it on ours. Our SEO metrics like shot up massively. And we're like, okay, this could be really good for our clients. Then we rejigged our SEO packages that our SEO team mentioned. That could be a really good like way to bring it in. Obviously, then increase the retainer amount too. So yeah,
nice. And so we are still talking about creating text-based content, though, broadly speaking. So in the form of some kind of a blog of sorts. So there's got to be educational content, presumably. Let's say if you're an agency looking to have good SEO standards yourself.
A page for every service that you offer. And I think a lot of smaller businesses really miss that. So like for a dentist, don't just have one page listing all your services. Have a page for your cosmetic stuff, for your checkups, for your den plans or whatever. But then also for agencies, if you do SEO, if you do paid ads, have a page for each. If you do Facebook ads and Google ads, have a page for Facebook and a page for Google. Blogs are really good, but again, people just run into the whole thing of just writing content for the sake of it, like posting 20 blogs a week. It's quality over quantity, as with anything, right? So having a decent stream of content, but also make the content engaging. So rather than just a 2,000 word blog, adding in there, some videos like YouTube videos, adding in some interactive stuff as well, and utilize different aspects of content. So yeah, not just text.
Yeah, fine. You're obviously getting a lot of clients inbound from doing that, but you also, and presumably as kind of the smaller mid-sized businesses, but you also worked with big companies like Amazon or the European Commission.
Yeah.
How did those kind of opportunities come around?
LinkedIn. So Amazon, they wanted an influencer monitoring campaign. So with all of their campaigns that they run with influencers that are like affiliates, they did like pop-up events all around Europe. So every event we would literally do social monitoring. So all of the influencers, we'd have a list of everything that they were supposed to do. We track it. We track all of the engagement rates when they posted, everything like that, and basically compile all of the data. I know it wasn't LinkedIn, it was an email. We had an inbound email into our info inbox, and you see them, and you're like, oh, I don't think this is true. And we were on holiday, and I thought, I'll just reply and just see. So I replied a little bit snooty because I was like, you're just going to waste my time. And they replied, and I was like, oh. And then I went on LinkedIn, found the person. I was like, okay, this is actually real, which is a bit of like a surreal moment because it's probably one of the biggest clients we've ever worked with. And yeah, I had a call with them, found out what they wanted, sent the proposal off. I was like, I bet they're talking to loads of other people. And yeah, in a couple of days, we'd signed it off. And it was really, really good. The European Commission one was from LinkedIn. That was just design work. They have a big really boring, like 120-page document that gets sent out every year about all the different, what's those pillars within the, in the European Union, you have like the SDRs, I think. So it's like economy, health, and it's basically a report covering all of them. And they wanted it to make it look nice rather than a boring report. So that was a really cool project as well. So yeah, we work with everyone.
When you say from LinkedIn, you saw them post and then you reached out to them based on them advertising that they needed something?
Yeah. So they would do a post saying like they're looking for a graphic designer, or they would interact with some of my content. That's something that I always do, and every business owner should do. If just get LinkedIn Premium, it's like £40 a month, but you can see who's viewed your profile. And we've seen so many people that have viewed my profile that I've reached out to or connected with. And they were like, oh, I saw you on Google, I was searching for stuff. Can we jump on a call about a website? Great example was a guy viewed my LinkedIn profile, reached out to him. He was like a sports nutritionist or something. And he'd viewed my profile and I sent him a message like, oh, great to connect with you. How come you view my profile? And it's not, I don't use bots or anything to do it. It's literally just me. And he was like, oh yeah, I saw some of his stuff and I think it's really cool. I'm looking for a website, but someone's going to charge you $5,000. Someone said 300 quid, like what should I be spending? So I was like, well, this is the like different options of what you can do, like a custom or a theme. And he was like, oh, I really appreciate, the value you gave. And I was like, if you need anything, just let me know. I wasn't salesy at all. Like, I'm the least salesy person ever. And he was like, oh, can we jump on a call like properly and discuss it? And then we signed it. And he's still a client now. So I think personality is so important. And that's why I also don't believe in like call scripts for like discovery calls and things like that. I give like rough ones of like topics that they should ask, like our sales team. But I think some people can just sound too robotic, and like people buy from people. So I think it works in some aspects, like if you're selling a course or if you're selling something and there's a particular route you have to go down. But because what we do is it could be for a website, it could be for social media, but it has to be an understanding of marketing in order to recommend a product to a client. So that's also been a really hard process in like bringing in new salespeople. If they don't have a marketing background, you have to go through months of being like, this is this service, this is what this does. So yeah, it's an interesting.
It's a hard one with the sales team with an agency. It's one of the hardest sales teams to grow or build, I would say, because they actually have to kind of end up being a business consultant.
Absolutely, you have to be a marketing strategist, unless it's someone booking in a call that wants to talk about a website. That's quite simple. How many pages? What's the functionality? But if someone's like, I want lead generation, and they might already be doing SEO, but then you look at their SEO metrics and they're just awful. And then it begs the question of, okay, who are you paying to your SEO? What are they doing? Do you have a report? And then you have to be a little bit like a detective and think of, okay, this is what I want to do for this bit. This is what I want to do for that bit. And then piece that together while you're on a sales call, then send a proposal. So, yeah. And also, we are really different with our proposals. So some agencies, and I think it's just a way of scaring a client, they'll send like a 20-page like deck with like 60,000 words about how they're going to build this website. We use a piece of software called Quilla, and it's like an interactive, you basically send a link and you design it. So our design team design it. You've got all of our awards, the service, a bit about us, our terms and conditions, everything is literally there. Send it to the client. You can see when they view it, how long they've interacted with. And we get so many comments on, I actually really loved your proposal, because so many agencies just send PDFs and I can't be bothered to read them, where this is like a bit more animated.
Quilla.
Yeah, it's great.
Nice. And so your framework is you're jumping on a sales call, doing a discovery, and then you're ending with, I'm going to send you a proposal?
Yeah, so on the discovery call, we'll go through rough costs, show clients what we'd be able to do, and then we'd send a proposal, basically putting everything down we spoke about, and then send that across. I know some agencies close on the phone. Maybe something we might be doing wrong, or maybe something that works really well for us. But we, on average, our conversion rate is anything from 40 to 60%. So that would be from everything. So proposals we send, upsells, everything, which I think is quite good.
It's brilliant.
And whether that's because we have a very particular way of getting clients, or they're just warm and in general and just like us, but it seems to be working very well.
From discovery call hosted or proposal sent?
What do you mean?
So conversion rate, is that on let's say it was 40% on proposal sent or on discovery call attended?
Proposal sent and projects won.
I mean, it's brilliant. That's
We do. What really bugs me is when people book a call and then don't turn up. That's like my really pet peeve. And we're trying to implement something to sort of reduce that a little bit. It probably doesn't happen all the time, maybe like 30%, but it's really bloody annoying. But yeah, so every proposal we send or any quote that we send, we have a very good conversion rate because it's not. It's what you see is what you get. Like the clients already know what it's going to cost, and I'd rather not pressure someone to buy something and then have the headache of that client afterwards because they didn't know what they bought or it wasn't the right time for them. So yeah, we always send a proposal. We can send the call recording as well. That gets sent to them, and we're checking after a couple of days and see. And I think it works quite well.
If I was to guess why that was working so well, it's just because you've got such a huge amount of leverage. Like you have a huge case studies page, just pages and pages of case studies on the website, which is great. Like you're really wearing your heart on your sleeve with the clients that you've worked with, and then obviously you've got all these awards. So it's kind of a no-brainer. As long as they're not really then picking an agency based on the service because you've already got rid of that bit. The trust is gone. They just got to like you, and if you calls are being handled really casually and you're not following a really strict framework, then you're probably achieving that quite well because a 40% conversion rate on proposal is actually exceptionally high by industry benchmarked.
But I've always done that. And I don't know if it's just because I've been lucky or I've not had any sales training. I remember really vividly a guy booked a call in with me probably about 8 months ago, and he booked it in like 3 a.m. for the next day, and I was like, this is a little bit strange. I jumped on the call and he was basically saying what he wanted and I was going through the options. And then he said, oh, can you just like give me 2 seconds? I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. Like, I don't have another call to go to because we ran over a little bit. He turned his camera off and then like, it was 2 minutes of me just sitting there on my own. And then he come back on, he said, oh, my name's not actually Mark, it's so-and-so. I'm an agency sales coach. And I was like, okay, so you've wasted half an hour of my time talking about this project that's imaginary. He was like, I really think you should be doing stuff better. And I was like, okay, like, tell me what you want to tell me. And some of the tips he gave was like really good, but he's like, oh, we should be closing on this call and etc. And then Jake was sat on the other desk and I said, Jake, what's our conversion rate for this month? I don't remember what it was. And I was like, well, this is what we're currently doing at the moment. And he was like, oh, okay, well, maybe that's working for you. But if you want to book on for some consulting with me, let me know. And I was just like, just please go away.
You got to respect it, but it's an outrageous. I would be so annoyed if I went through that process.
Very clever, but very annoying.
I think you get people booking themselves onto your. They booked onto your calendar as well?
Yeah.
So I get that, and that's very frustrating. And it's worse when it just bypasses. Some people bypass Google, like Calendly or a booking form completely, and just end up on the Google Calendar. And it's just it's a pain in the ass, but.
There's a lot of people that I'm always like at university. If you go to do a business degree, right, the person that's probably teaching the course never probably run a business in their life. And I think a lot of these, yes, sales coaches and like mentorships are very good, but I think a lot of the time it just crosses a bit of a line where I think it can just get a little bit too clinical. Like I said earlier about like call scripts and things like that. For cold calling, absolutely. But because what we do, it just wouldn't work. Like, yes, there are things you can ask about, but you can't go and literally follow a script from start to finish because the client could say something and be like, okay, actually, this service isn't actually very good for you. We need to do this instead. So, yeah, I think I've just been very different in how I've done things.
But it's gone well, and it's refreshing to hear. It's nice to... It's great to have a conversation with someone that's challenging the norms and going against the grain of what everyone else says, the way that you run an agency. Most of the way that I see it is lots of agencies, all these kind of tight rules on scripts and on, frameworks and working with certain niches and a small amount of services. I see that as something that's only really essential from day one in the early stages.
Yeah, when you're starting out.
I think you branch out different services, different offering as you get more educated, your sales process expands and so on. And so I don't think people should necessarily listen to this and think, I'm going to just go complete scattergun from day one.
Oh, no, if you don't know what you're doing, absolutely.
but the definitely going broader and broader as we go is so important.
And moulding it into you, sorry to interrupt, moulding it into you, because otherwise then you just sound like every other agency. And when I watch like cold calls and stuff on TikTok, and it's like a bit of fun for me, but everyone sounds the same, everyone has the same script. But when you, like you said, I think initially if you have no experience in the agency space, you've never done any of the work, and I think it's a little bit different maybe because I've done the actual legwork at the beginning, like managing the clients, creating the content, doing the ads myself. I kind of know what is going to work and what isn't going to work. So maybe that's how I've sort of put across my framework. But definitely for people that are starting out, I think you need a bit of a boundary in a sense to sort of build that framework.
Keep you in a place to stop, even nothing else, to stop shiny object syndrome.
Absolutely, 100%.
Have you made any big mistakes over the past few years?
Hiring the wrong people, saying yes to things that I shouldn't have said yes to. I think I mentioned this on an episode of my podcast a couple of weeks ago. I think Richard Branson once said, like, say yes to everything. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to be that person. And then when it just started to backfire, I was like, I shouldn't have said yes to this. Team can't manage the project, it's too technical and things like that. So yeah, I take risks, but calculated risks.
If you ever get offered an opportunity and you don't know how to fulfill it, say yes and learn later. That's the Richard Branson quote.
There you go.
Yeah.
I think it works sometimes, but not all the time.
I agree with that. It's also a quote that when I first heard was something I'm like, right, that's what I'm going to do.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because on one hand, you look at it was actually when I was in employment, I looked at that and it was like, well, to get a good job, you need good experience, and to get good experience, you need a good job. So somewhere something has to give.
Absolutely.
And it's the same with elevating with better clients and more people, but it's about reaching above your current threshold just enough that it's slightly out of reach, but not so much that you've got no chance on taking a grip.
And probably another thing is like not networking enough. Because only 2 years ago we went to like our first conference, and that was because a guy that sold me something was like, please come to this conference, it'll be so much fun, there'll be so much alcohol, like you'll have a great time. And I was like, but everyone's going to be there, like agency owners, and I'm a very like introverted person, like I keep myself to myself. And I was like, socializing, like, I'm not sure about that. But then we've got so many clients, and like a quite big client that we're working with now was one I met at a conference in Poland, and he was very drunk, and I was literally holding him up. And then we're working together on a project and doing loads of different services, and the retainer is quite nice. So that has not come from any outbound. It's just being me. So I think going to like networking events, I went to BNI, like is it the British Networking Institute, like however many years, like when I first started, everyone in there was in like their 50s, 60s, and I was there like probably 17, 18 in my little Marks and Spencer suit, and I was like, I feel so uncomfortable. It was like 6 a.m, and everyone was just looking at me. And not those types of networking, but just other people within your space, like agency owners are so helpful to one another, because if there's a problem with a client, if you've got an operations issue, if you've got a sales issue, or you can't fulfill a project, you can then pass that on to someone else, and then you can get a piece of the pie in terms of a commission. And that's worked so well. I'd say like maybe 25% of the projects that we get through are from other agencies that either white label us or pass on the lead. And that wouldn't have happened from me going to events or speaking at conferences and things like that. And as much of a faff it is to travel, even though I should be lucky to do so, it is a bit of an inconvenience because I like my home, I like my own space. But we wouldn't have had the opportunities we've had. So definitely networking and not being afraid to ask for help from other people, because it can be a lonely space, right, owning a business.
Oh, no doubt. And I share that sentiment that agency owners are very giving in general. There are lots of industries which are extremely closed, and it's me against you and it's dog eat dog. The agency space is very sharing. Like the best are always keen to share their strategies, because we know that the likelihood that my client will go to you and your client will come to me is high, and my team will come to you and yours will me, and we're all learning. And it's a people's business. And I think that's why people are giving, because we know how hard it is to deal with people both on team and with clients.
Absolutely.
And so we want to be nice to the other guys who are going through the same shit.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, I say to Jake so many times a month, I wish I could just work with dogs and not work with people, because sometimes it can be the worst thing. But it's nice in a sense to have other people that you can just bounce ideas off and ask for help. And I'm so glad that Jake joined the business, because if it was just me now, me and my therapist would be having like daily calls. So it's nice to have that ability to work together on a problem rather than just doing it on your own.
100%. Where's the future of Nautilus? What's the long-term play? Are you building to sell? Are you building to keep as a lifestyle company?
I don't know. Our accountant asks me this all the time, and Jake asked me this. He's like, "Oh, when can we sell it? When can we sell it?" I don't want to, because I get bored. Like, this is all I've done. I've never had a proper job. I worked at a theatre, but it wasn't really a proper job, and I just love it. I think now, because I have a little bit more time to do things like this, I don't have any intention to sell. I mean, I'm 26. Like, I'm not going to go anywhere soon. I hope not. But I just get bored unless I started another business. I don't want to do anything else. We want to add different services. We're looking at building like a SaaS platform ourselves, which should launch next year. But yeah, just keep on doing what we're doing, because it seems to be working. I want to branch into more like technical projects. So we just built a web application for an erotic audiobook company. And it was a huge deal, and it's taken like 4 months to build. But I've not had any issues, like project-wise. My project manager's taken care of it. Developers have been ace. Clients really happy. And I want to do more projects like that, because they look really good case studies, and it's a bit nerdy. So,
nice.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe sell it in the future, but I quite like what we're doing.
Moving into the SaaS side, without talking about too much about what you're doing there, does that come from a place of a feeling that the marketing industry will roll up into SaaS at some point?
No, it's more of a complementary to marketing. So like our clients can use it, or other agencies will be able to use it. It's not like what I mentioned earlier about like courses and things like that. It's a little bit different in that sense. But it will be a little bit more passive rather than like having a service deliverability team, having project managers, account managers, that kind of stuff. So it'd be a little bit more of a like a slicker team. We brought on another sales like business developer like literally last month, and Jake was like, we need someone else, so it's not just relying on all of us all the time for sales. So I'd like to bring in more, because unfortunately when you start doing well, you don't really want to stop. You want more, which is not a nice thing really from a mentality point of view. But I always want more, and I always want the best, whether that's like revenue wise or profit, but also, you know, clients or Google reviews or case studies and things like that. I just like get a bit of a high from it, which I'm sure yourself and others have come across as well.
It's the curse of entrepreneurship, that one.
Absolutely.
What is it that motivates you at this point? Because you've clearly made great money in the business. Is it still the money that motivates you?
Being completely open, I'd probably say no. You know, we've bought a house, we've got a cute dog that I love. Like, we go on holiday. Like, I don't really want much else. Obviously, there are things you want in life, but without sounding like an arse, I've done a lot quite young. Like, I'm very mature. Like, the first club I went to was when I met Jake, which was when I was 21. I'd never been to a club before. All my friends at school would drink, and I'd have like the occasional one, but I'd just prefer to like chill and just like have an easy life. So maybe I don't know. I don't know what, to be fair. Like, I just love what I do. Like, I wake up sometimes and be like, oh, like, I don't want to do this. But then others, I'm like, okay, this is a really good day. Like, we're doing this. So there's not really like a monetary thing of what I want to achieve. We live comfortably. Like, I love my life. Just carry on doing it really, and building out a team, because it's nice to see the team working hard and bringing in new projects and things and adding new services. Like, I love that. Like, the digital PR stuff we launched maybe a year ago or 9 months ago, it's just been fab, because it's a bit like shiny object syndrome, but not, because you can see that it benefits clients, and also it's something that I can bring in, work on, and then when it's at a really good point, we can then start sort of rolling it out from a sales perspective. But yeah, not spread myself too thin, I'd say, as well.
Nice. So I've got a few quick fire questions for you.
God.
They're not. They take your time with them. They're
Okay.
Not that quick.
Not one word answers.
Yeah, they're not necessary. Well, they could be
Okay.
if it comes to mind. First of all, what is one tool or piece of software that you couldn't live without in the agency?
Oh, Monday.com. I love Monday.com. I think we tried to use ClickUp, but that was just like way too complex. We used to use Trello, but there were so many limitations with it. So I'd say Monday.com. My life runs on it as well. I have my own to-do list for everything that I need to do for every day of the week. And then we use it for project management and stuff. And there's so many cool things that you can do with it. Yeah, business-wise, I'd probably say Monday.com.
Yeah, cool. Never been a Notion guy?
No.
Interesting. And just as a caveat to that, this isn't a quick fire. What's your opinion on centralized project management in general? Because across the whole company, you're managing a lot of different services. Do you do centralized project management on Monday? Everyone's using the same system?
Yes. So we have a board for each service. So SEO has a board, web has a board, PPC, copywriting, and then every project is listed on there. So yes, but it's split between the teams unless there's a crossover, whereas like our SEO team will work on PPC stuff and vice versa.
Makes sense. And then individual teams outside of, or is everyone feeding into Monday, or do people have
Everything
their individual?
is on Monday.
Interesting.
Everything is on Monday, apart from client side.
Nice. Client side as in their to-dos?
Yeah, so us sending things to clients. For digital PR, we're building out automations, like when you get a new link, it will automatically send you an email. But yeah, everything with clients is email or Zoom.
Nice. What's a brand that you haven't worked with but you would love to?
Oh, probably the clothing brand that I wear, Represent. I love Represent. I think they're really cool. They've built their community really well.
Yeah.
My friend that owns a recruitment business in the UK introduced me to them like 4 years ago, and I bought a hoodie, and Jay was like, "Why have you spent £200 on a hoodie?" I was like, "It's really nice. Like, look at it." And he was like, "Oh," and then like 2 months later, he bought it, and now only wears that as well. I just think they're a really cool brand. They're a really cool concept.
They're doing a great job.
They're really, really good.
Very cool. And then finally, what is one piece of advice if you could go back to 17-year-old yourself starting the agency?
Be more open, ask for help when you need it, and speak with others that own businesses and bounce ideas off them. And just get out more, because especially like as a remote entrepreneur or a virtual entrepreneur or business owner, you can just literally sit at a desk for 8 hours or 12 hours or 14 hours and not move. So I started working with a trainer like a year ago, lost like 15 kg, love going to the gym now.
15 kg?
Yeah,
That's a lot.
I was 96 kg and I'm
Good
6'1", so I was a bit chunk, and now like 78, and that's been really good. We've got a dog now, so like getting my steps in every day and just getting out, because you can literally sit in front of a desk for so long or stand at a desk. I had a treadmill under my desk at one point, which was quite cool, very dangerous. But yeah, not just sitting in front of your computer all the time. Go to events and things and conferences. It's a good place to meet people and clients.
It's such a relevant piece of advice for right now. I think that everyone is at danger of just like completely bunkering themselves in.
Yeah.
And you do this. I was having this conversation last night. When things are great, you bunker in because you want them to be even better. When things are bad, you especially bunker in because you want to try and fix them. And then you go out for a walk, or you go do something in nature, or hang out with friends, and you're like, oh, there's a world outside of where I have just been. And you have to remind yourself that, at least in my instance, business is a vehicle to put purpose and find fulfillment and happiness, but it isn't the entire thing that generates that. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. You can become obsessed, and I've done it myself. I probably still am obsessed to it to a degree, but it's a fuel in a way, because now, you know, we have a nice house, we have an amazing dog, we go on walks, we go on adventures and stuff, but we wouldn't have been able to do that if I was still at the theatre. And, you know, acting isn't a very stable job. You might get one job, and then, as you know, like 6 months later, you then get something else finally. But you've got that 6-month gap. So, yeah, definitely getting out and seeing other people, because you can just literally sit down all day, which it's not good.
And one single conversation can be the difference between
literally
your client acquisition solved.
Yeah.
One strategic partner that you met at one event that you didn't want to go to.
Yeah. Or just in general, I mean, with the airport on on Friday we were going to Italy to see our friend, and we're in the airport lounge, and the couple next to us had their flight cancelled. They were going to India, and we were just talking, and he was like, "Oh, what do you do?" I said, "Oh, in a digital marketing agency." "Oh, really? Do you do PPC?" "Oh, we're looking for some consultants to help with us because we're doing it in-house. We're not doing it very well." "Oh, here's my card. Like, have a chat." Like, Jake had the clinic that we do loads of stuff with. He went for a hay fever injection like 2 years ago, which is what you have in your bum. And while he was getting injected with the hay fever stuff, he was talking, and then we started to do their marketing. So just talking to everyone, really. Even though I am introverted, I love to talk.
Yeah, we do every now and then.
Absolutely, yeah. I get let out and then I can talk a bit and then I go back.
Yeah, just get back in the cave.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, I suppose we'll be able to get back in the cave then, Tom. It's been a pleasure speaking to you, man. Thank
you very much. I appreciate it.